It's 20 days before election season, election day. So, uh, let me first introduce myself. My name is Jeff or Jeffrey. So, I'm currently residing in Taiwan and I'm working as a UI UX designer. So, like you, I'm also a voter and I want to be more informed of whom to vote and why would I vote for her or him. All right. So I'm your facilitator for tonight. And joining me as a facilitator is Jean Chung and Selena. Um, where's Selena?
Hello. Thank
Yeah.
you, Aya.
Ayan.
Um,
Ayan. Selena, Jean, would you like to introduce yourself?
yeah, sure. I'll go ahead na lang.
Yeah.
Hello, everybody. My name is Selena. I am one of the co-facilitators for today. I am currently a college student taking up a BConstar Diplomatic Affairs in Benilde. And I'm also an active volunteer of Leni Kiko and also, of course, Attorney Chelio.
Oh, nice. How about you, Jean?
Hi everyone, good evening. My name is Jin Chung. I'm actually an employee with the family business and right now I'm here to help moderate and facilitate the Zumustahan. Of course, to support Lenny and Kiko as we are, as Jeff said, 20 days to go until elections.
Oo nga, no, 20 days to go na. Excited na ba
Oo,
kayo? Are you scared? What's your ngayon? How do you feel right now?
Actually, I feel that a little scared because yun nga people surrounding me are pro Lenny. So I feel like I'm in a bubble. So what's the real picture, right? You see people also saying that there's so much fake news, there's so much misinformation going around.
Okay. So 20 days na lang. So I think lahat tayong tatlo, alam na natin kung sino ibobota natin for May
Oo.
9, di ba? So how about the people who joined us here sa Zumustahan natin? Have you decided who to vote on May 9? So if you're not yet sure who to vote on May 9, probably this talk could help you decide. Or if you want to talk to your friends or your family who haven't decided yet whom to vote, probably some information here on our Zumustahan will be able to help you and tell them what you've learned from this talk, right, Selena?
Yes, and of course, you can, habang maaga pa ngayon, you can invite your friends na undecided pa or those friends na planning to do a house-to-house to convert more people. Sali mo na sila.
Okay.
Oo nga, the call for Saturday, di ba?
Yeah,
For the
makakapunta
Pasay
ba
Grand
kayo?
Rally.
Ayan.
Sana.
Wala, hindi ako pinihagan conservative fam.
Okay.
Join us on Zoom, on Facebook Live. Be one of the numbers on the Digital Warriors.
You can be a keyboard warrior sa social media, right? So I think we invited few guests for our tonight's Sumustahan. Probably Selena and Jane, would you like to introduce our guests for tonight?
Okay, I'll introduce the very first special guest for tonight, a well-respected screenwriter, novelist, and playwright. He has written more than 180 films, screenplays, which earned him more than 70 trophies from various award-giving bodies. He is also a legend in Philippine cinema, born from a Chinese father and a Filipino mother, and grew up with his relatives in Daet, Camarines Norte. Let's give it up for Sir Ricky Lee. Are you here?
Yeah. Hi.
Hi.
Hi,
Thank you so
Celine.
much for joining.
Yeah. No, thank you for inviting me. Usually, I don't accept itong ganito mga invitations kasi nahihiya ako na magsalita. Hindi ako articulate writer lang ako. Kaya lang tinanggap ko to dahil alam kong mahalaga tong election na to because it will determine not just the next 6 years, kundi yung future ng ating bansa, yung future nating lahat. Maski nating mga Chinoy, I feel that even tayong mga Chinoy, we should get involved. Kung hindi tayo na-involved dati, we should get involved now.
Yes.
Ibang klase yung eleksyon ito kaysa sa mga tao.
Sir Ricky, what makes this election so different from the past? In your opinion po?
Ang tagal na natin ang daming mga administrations na usually it's the old politicians, the old system, mga pamilya ng politicians ang kumukontrol, the same na mga patakbo. I think ngayon lang nagkaroon in a long time ng chance na baka totally mabago. Hindi manggagaling sa isang political clan, transparent, halos nakikinig sa mga tao. Parang, like, nabuhay ako nung panahon ng martial law. Parang, I don't want another 6 years or more than that na mabuhay ako sa ganong klaseng lipunan. So parang ito yung chance na mabago na. So kailangan baguhin. Yun. Kaya andito ako.
I think later we can discuss more about the things that happened during martial law. No? Okay, so our next guest, Jean.
So we're also joined tonight by an esteemed lawyer, techpreneur. He's a member of the Philippine Cabinet and presidential spokesperson of the late President Benigno Aquino III. He is half Chinese and he is an alumni of St. Jude. May I welcome Mr. Edwin Lacierda.
Hi, good evening.
Good evening, sir.
Sir.
You know, just to a little bit of introduction, I was noticing how Jin introduced me and Mr. Ricky Lee. Okay, Mr. Ricky Lee, born of a Chinese father and a Filipino mother. So I was wondering, why was I described as half Chinese? It turns out, maybe because you didn't know what side of my parents was. My mother is Filipina. My surname Lacierda is from my mom. My dad is Chinese. He's Tane, si Tane. So, but because they were not married, so I got the surname of my mom. So, and I have no middle name. That's why I joke around and I tell people that I'm immaculately conceived because my birth certificate does not have a middle name because I don't know, for one reason or another they didn't put in my middle name. So I'm just Edwin Lacierda. It's been a problem for me every time I fill up in the Philippines. It's a required field when you have to put in your middle name. So I always say, wala akong middle name pasensya na. And it's always NA, akala nila NA is my middle name. It's not applicable actually, but that's where I am. So thank you for the introduction. It's so I want to tell you how, as we go on along, that the Chinoy community has a lot of contribution to Leni's campaign, to Leni becoming the vice presidential candidate. It's one of the reasons why I'm very for Leni. So I share that later on. But anyway, thank you for the introduction. Thank you for being with Chinoys. By the way, this is my first time I'm with. Bulk of the people are Filipino Chinese because since I left St. Jude, it's practically I'm with Filipino classmates, very few Chinese. But it's good. I've been practice. I'm very fluent in Fukien. Because in the family household we speak Fukien, no? Even if I'm half Chinese. And I learned Mandarin, which I've already forgotten because we don't speak it in here in the Philippine society. So it's more Fukien is because we're lang Katsuel lang si Hokkien lang to, so that's why but I understand that the younger generation has are not as fluent as kami mga boomers.
Yes, I think, but some of the younger generation are much more they know how to speak Mandarin more than
Hokkien. Yes, that is
good. That's a good development. So I hope that's part of globalization, I suppose.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you for that, Mr. Lacierda. Selena, our next guest.
So for our next guest, I think marami nang may alam sa inyo kung sino. Teacher Balvin. No need for Cheers.
Yeah, magandang gabi. Mabuhay ang Pilipinas. I'm Baldwin. I'm lovingly known by the Chinoy community as Teacher Baldwin. No? I'm a not. I don't want to be a bystander. I don't want to be a bystander Chinoy. No. So palaging tawsigele kachu yata pagdating sa mga ganito. No. But this is actually the first time I I get to go out and endorse someone. So nagpaalam muna ako sa aking mga organisasyon, no? And then so that I would really come out and endorse Leni because I want a value-based leadership. Ayokong minumura ang mga Pilipino. Ayokong araw-araw pagka na, 'di ba, no? So during the pandemic, I'm a person living with epilepsy, and then I was one also on the ground volunteering at may I mention ba at Bahay Chinoy, with the Towns Foundation and Kaisa, no? So volunteering, packing all those PPEs and everything, no? So I want a leader that could lead the country with values. And then, ayan. Meron tayong kasama today.
Yes.
Kasi pag nandito si Baldwin, kailangan, we didn't announce it publicly, but our organization should remain non-partisan kasi, no? But we like to, since this is just like a dialogue, a storytelling sessions of what really happened in the, by the way, I'm a visual artist pala, no? So ang sining ay dapat base pa rin siya sa katotohanan. Pag gagamitin mo ang sining at kultura, base pa rin siya palagi sa truth, no? Whilst art is an expression. So anyway, we would want to hear a lot of stories also about the martial law years, no, and everything, no. We have a very, very special surprise guest today, Ma'am Tessie. So, Teresita Angsi, no? So, sino ba naman ang hindi nakakakilala, no? Pagka nilalambing ko siya, ang sikreto, I will, nakikilola na rin ako. So, that would cheer her up, no? Tessie, I miss you. Yan.
Salamat. Hindi ko alam kasama pala ako sa mga Anyway, una, Ricky, maraming salamat. Ngayon ko lang nalaman na hindi ka pala tumatanggap ng ganitong mga speaking engagement. Buti na lang pinaunlakan mo ako. And
yeah, okay lang.
Si Edwin naman, matagal na kasama ko nung hindi pa nga nagsaswear in si Pinoy noon. Magkakilala na kami, no? Kaya ang nakikita ko kasi, kaya tinutulungan ko rin yung Chinoy volunteers kasi unang pagkakataon sa kasaysayan ng mga Chinoy na binigyan ng boses at mukha ang paniniwala at paninindigan sa politika, no? Usually yung ginamit na word ni Baldwin, bystander, bali na lang bayaan mo mang chaplo lan jing zui seng di ka ho se mang ko kit chap jing di, no, but we cannot, no, because we are fighting for a rightful place in the Philippine sun, so we have to commit ourselves to help win, no, and put our stake into yung tunay na kahulugan ng servant leadership na maibibigay sa atin, no? Kaya salamat sa mga young Chinoys, sa mga efforts ninyo. Nakita ko yung mga Binondo Heritage Walk ninyo, Walk for Leni. Pangatlo na yun today, ano? Pangatlo yung Walk for Leni today. Kaya Sobrang
Pang-apat
sipag,
po,
lalo na
tomorrow.
yung si Baldwin na may epilepsy pa
Pang-apat.
yan. Nung panahon ng
Buwis
pandemya, lockdown, takot na takot kami for him. But wala makapag-volunteer. Siya yung taga-Binondo, kaya siya yung tumatao sa bahay Chinoy. Total lockdown, pero ang bahay Chinoy was open 24 hours kahit 2:00 ng madaling araw. So yan yung Chinoy kasi we fight for our country. So we serve those who need, no? Yung talagang dala ng pangangailangan, kaya kahit 2:00 ng madaling araw, nagbubukas ang bahay Chinoy to send PPEs to Tawi-Tawi, to send PPEs to Apari and all those places, no? So salamat Edwin and Ricky sa pagpapaunlak ninyo sa ganitong mga talakayan.
Yeah, and thank you, Ma'am Tessie, for indulging us and joining our conversation. So thank you. So probably we can start now our discussion. No? So 20 days left na lang for us to decide or to think about who are we gonna vote for this coming presidential election. No? There's a lot of talk around us sa mga dining tables, sa mga reunions with family, sa mga coffee shops, sa mga ano. And we hear a lot of noise about this election, especially this election, diba? And most of the things that we hear outside are fake news. Lalo na fake news about VP Leni, fake news about martial law, fake news about the golden era of the Marcoses. So I think sa mga guests natin there, you have a lot of experience during martial law. I want to ask Mr. Ricky Lee, what is your experience during martial law days? Kasi alam namin there are a lot of academics and artists that's been imprisoned or were tortured during martial law days. Can you share your experience during those times?
Well, I was a student in UP Diliman. That time, naging aktivista ako. And gaya ng ibang mga aktivista noon, I wanted a better life para sa mga kababayan ko, para sa amin, para sa bayan, para sa lahat. And I wanted to help. So, naging very active ako. Nakulong ako ng 1 taon sa Ipil, Fort Bonifacio, kasama ng 5 pa na kinabibilangan ni Bien Lumbera, National Artist for Literature, Joan Maglipon, editor ng Yes Magazine, at iba pang mga kasama namin noon. So yun, 1 year ako sa loob ng kulungan. Marami akong mga kaibigan na nakulong din, na torture, napatay, o naging desaparecido, nawala. May akong kakilala na journalist na nawala na lang. At hanggang ngayon, hindi pa nakikita, di alam ko nasaan. So naranasan ko yung buhay niyo nung panahon ng martial law. Nung nakalabas ako ng kulungan, na-involved ako sa pelikula, nakapagsulat ako ng mga scripts. That time, may censors board pa. So usually, bago kami makapag-shooting, kinakailangan muna ng shooting permit. So yung storyline ko and then sequence treatment and eventually script kailangang i-submit at dumaan sa censor's body. And usually I would get letters na nire-reprimand ako, ba't may ganito, ba't ito bastos, ba't ito political, etc. Hanggang maka-adjust kami, ma-revise namin at ma-aprobahan. Then, and only then could we shoot. So naranasan ko lahat yun nung panahon yun. Nung martial law. Actually, yung dami-daming kwento. Mahabang kwentuhan yun. Pero para sa karamihan ng mga kabataan ngayon, madali namang mahanap yan. Accessible lahat yan. Lahat ng YouTube, ang dami-dami, it's all over the place. Ang daling hanapin na hindi fake news. Ang daling makita ko na talagang totoong nangyari ng martial law. But I was there. And si Tessie was there. Dinalaw ako ni Tessie once
Tsaka sa
Sa Fort Bonifacio.
Manila Medical, ang hinihingi nila sa amin, maho, kasi wala silang protein. Bilhan mo kami ng maho sa Ongpin. Eh, bagong graduate din ako, wala rin pera, kaya bumibili kami ng maho 1 kilo. They shared it with all the political prisoners. Thank you.
Ayun. Do you have something to add to that, Sir Ricky?
Ang dami kong maikukwento eh. So di ko alam kung ano yung kailangan kong ikwento eh.
We can.
Siguro ang isang gusto lang sabihin is, pag pinag-uusapan yung martial law at kaming mga naging activist at that time, usually ang nakikita natin the grimness, the dark side, which is true. Ang daming dark side, ang daming mga nangyaring malalagim eh. But I want to emphasize also na bilang estudyante, nang sumali ako noon sa Kilusan bilang aktivista, it was something not really grim. It was something hopeful. It was something that was really full of pangarap. And I was really happy joining all those rallies, doing all those things because I was seeing something which could be brighter para sa aming lahat, para sa ating lahat eh. So hindi siya something like napuwersa ako or something really dark na decision na kailangan gawin. It was something that was really spontaneous na gusto kong salihan kasi I wanted to be a part of everything that was going to happen, lalo na kung magkakaroon ng magandang pagbabago at pangyayari. Lalo na dahil maski pa paano, pag Chinoy ka, may thinking sila na hindi ka naman totally Filipino eh. You don't totally belong sa lipunan. So, diyan ka lang sa tabi, hayaan mo lang na maayos ang takbo ng lahat eh. Pero, maaga pa na-involved na ako kasi nung early years ko sa UP, I think nakasali na ako sa mga projects ng Kaisa. Hindi ko alam kung Kaisa ng pangalan noon. That time, may mga projects sila. We would go to places, makikisalamuha kami sa mga magsasaka, nakikipagpiko kami, nakikipagtanim kami, nakatabi sila to show them na Pilipino.
Sapang palay yun.
Sapang palay. Yeah. Para pakita sa kanila na mga Pilipino rin kami, hindi man totally magkakapareho 100% ang dugo natin, magkakapareho tayo ditong Pilipino, dito tayo nakatira sa bansang ito, buhay natin ito lahat. So, yun, that time na-involved na pala ako sa projects ng Kaisa.
Okay. So, never kayo natakot sa mga pwedeng mangyari sa inyo that time?
Of course, matatakot ka because you never know eh. Parang meron anong tawag doon, nakaambak, nakamay sa taas mo. Nasa labas ka naman bahay, nasa loob, may nakaambang kamay na pwede kang madukot, pwede kang mag-disappear, pwedeng may mangyari sa'yo o pwede kang kasuhan. Like wala namang kaso sa amin, na nakulong kami, wala namang charges, kaya political detainees ang tawag, hindi naman prisoners eh. We never knew how long we would be in detention and we didn't even know na on the very day na pinalabas kami, we didn't even know na lalabas na kami. Pinatawag na lang kami, parang hinakot kami lahat. O labas na kayo lahat, tinapon na kami sa labas. So you really didn't know. There was no process, no legal process. So laging may nakaamba, nakamay sa taas mo na hindi mo alam what's going to happen. Ito bang sinulat ko, seditious na o hindi, o mali na o tama? Dapat bang gawin ko to? Laging may nakaganon. Pero, so nandun yung fear. Pero I think mas malakas yung hope. Mas malakas yung determination mo na sa nakikita ko sa palibot. I want to do something. I want to get involved. I don't want to just sit here na nakatingin na ang dami-dami nangyayari sa palibot. So I think mas malakas yun. But then the fear never leaves you. Even long after you get out of detention, may jerk inside your body. May jerk kang nararamdaman. Even up to now, pag may nagdo-doorbell beyond 10 or 11 o'clock, may jerk.
There's trauma na.
It never leaves you. Maski na may maliit na natira, lumilit na ng lumiliit, it never totally leaves you. Pag may nakikita ako mga naka-uniform sa kalsada, automatically I think na guilty ako, maski hindi ako guilty.
I understand.
It never leaves you.
Okay. Let's go to Sir Ricky. Sir Edwin.
Edwin.
Sir Edwin, how about you? Kasi I think you just probably you're just graduated high school or going to college back then. How was the experience during those times? Kasi kami wala pa akong muwang nung time na yun, no? So kasi kami parang feel namin very peaceful pa nung time yun. Wala kaming naririnig na news, ganyan. Kayo,
Yung karanasan namin mga and I would defer to Ricky and to Tessie who are I think a bit much older than I am. When I was in when martial law was declared, I was I think in grade 2 or grade 3, so wala biglang wala ng mga TV shows. Sali mga animated suspended ng klase and all that. So growing up, and by the way, I don't know how many Judenites or graduates of St. Jude are in this Zoom. St. Jude is the closest school to Malacanang. And so pre-martial law, there's so many demonstrations, there's so many rallies. Kaya ang feeling mo ang gulo-gulo talaga ng the student rallies, there are always rallies. Kaya ngayon may barrier na, you cannot go straight to Malacanang Panas, you have to have a pass. But prior to 72, may jeepney pumapasok. It's a free road, public road siya. And there were so many demonstrations, and the St. Jude Catholic Church was always a victim of all the rallies, nababasag kanila mga mosaic glass and all that. So it was always kami walang pasok. Suspended lahat yan. So when martial law was declared, we felt, ang tahimik na. And this is a typical Filipino-Chinese experience, unlike kay Ricky or kay Tessie, which went to rallies then. When I was growing up, we had soldiers in our school. May mga Metrocom, or I think that time there were more army yun eh. So nakakaki sila. They were stationed in the school. There was a barrack on the 6th floor of our new building. But in spite of that, we were the soldiers that we first became exposed to, mababait sila sa amin. So we never thought na salbahe itong mga sundalo. There was no notion that martial law was bad. And so we grew up thinking, and like maybe perhaps the current situation right now, we grew up thinking maganda palang martial. And that was a general sentiment in a number of years subsequent to the declaration of martial law. In 79, when I graduated, so that was my mentality. Then when I moved to LaSalle, there was one day, and by the way, before that, my cousin who studied naman in MLQ University stayed with us. We have a place in Quiapo. We stayed with us, and we would talk a lot. But his impression of martial law, his impression of Marcos was so starkly different from what I was exposed to. So he began talking about how bad martial law was, how bad the military was. They were picking up people. And so those things were very, very alien to someone like us who've never experienced that. But when I went to LaSalle, panay rallies, may mga rallies na natutuloy. And then I studied, by the way, Mr. Ricky Lee, I was a AB Communication Arts ako under kay Doy Del Mundo.
LaSalle.
You gave a talk to us one time, and we were exposed naman to the arts, no? So our chairman then, Doy Del Mundo, who did Batch 81, Sister Stella L, mga Maynila sa Kukunang Liwanag, and all that, we were exposed to the social realities of that time. And so I remember also in LaSalle, talagang may takot yung before you speak up, you have to be very, very conscious, because ang impression namin, we were told there were spies, military spies in all the campuses. So you have to be very, very careful when you speak. So there's no freedom of speech that you as free as now. And so there was always a fear na may sasabihin ka, and like what Mr. Ricky Lee was saying, may censorship, and there was censorship. In fact, the only free paper then I remember was Malaya. It was a mosquito press. We call it the mosquito press kasi once a week lang yata yung lumalabas, and then yung mga stories na hindi lumalabas sa the newspapers then were Daily Express, Manila Bulletin. Yung mga yan, mga government papers yan eh. I mean, they mouth the government propaganda. So you can never see anything anti-government. So but when Malaya came out, talagang we really hinahabol namin ng Malaya. And then there was this other magazine called Mr. and Miss. These were two magazines which gave us the other side of martial law. But we knew then also that talagang there is something wrong kasi maraming mahihirap, maraming naghihirap, magulo yung, and then there's the more importantly, and I think this is something that you've never felt, there was a suppression, a repression of rights. Fundamentally, freedom of speech. The one thing that really struck me was when Ninoy Aquino was running for the Batasan then, and there was a debate, he was allowed to appear on government TV hosted by the late Ronnie Nathaniels, who was going after him hammer and tongs. Talagang binabanati niya si Ninoy Aquino. Ninoy was so vocal, was so good in speaking out. You suddenly realize I'm living in a parallel world. I mean, there's an alternate world apart from reality. Kumbaga, it's like there's an echo chamber now. It wasn't called echo chamber then. It wasn't called an alternative reality then. But it's the same thing. You've got this whole creation, this whole fiction that maayos ang martial law, and other hand, magulo ang martial law.
But I think that's the confusion now, Sir Edwin, with the youth today. Like we are in this echo chamber. We are in this. We hear a lot of fake news that martial law really is good, and how, especially for Chinoys, we were in touch, we weren't affected. But are there any experiences, or maybe Ma'am Tessie can also chime in on this, that how the Chinoys were affected negatively by martial law, because we are part of the Philippines. So how, I don't know if you have stories, Ma'am Tessie, with the Chinoys during martial law.
Yeah, yan yung madalas na naririnig na peaceful, no? Kasi walang Congress. Alam mo naman, yung Chinoy at that time suffer from congressmen. Ting election, hihingi ng tong ang mga congressman. Pag mag-citizenship ka, hihingan ka ng tong, mga ganyan. Tapos, martial law. So, walang policeman. Wala rin yung mga lagi ka ng yung mga extortion, no? Mga police na mag-extort sa'yo. So, iniisip nila talagang tahimik, no? Peaceful, because yung business climate, they think the business climate is conducive na for them to do business. Pero hindi nila nakikita kasi ano yung nasa likod nitong nangyayari, no? Doon sa bayan mismo, nakikita mo, business is good, no? You peaceful, pero hindi mo nakikita yung mga examples. The one and only truly integrated steel mills is owned by a Chinoy, prominent Chinoy businessman. Wag na natin banggitin today. Imelda went to them. Gusto ng share, no, doon sa steel mill na yon. Sa takot nila, they pulled out their capital. Nag-abroad sila, no? Nag-bankrupt. And downstream industries, ang daming na-affected. Ano? Tapos, yung nakikita nung huli, nakikita ng buong mundo na napakalaki na ng debts ng Pilipinas, napakalaki ng utang, so ayaw na tayong pautangin. During the embargo ng World Bank, nung wala talagang foreign exchange to buy fuel, to import products, ang mga factories work only, sa mga Chinoy factories na nagtiyaga talaga, they work only sometimes 3 shifts, three times a week. From 3 shifts a day, naging 3 times a week para lang may makain ng kanilang mga workers, no? You read the Japanese scholars Kuno Yoshihara's book, sinabi niya, lahat ng buong mundo nag-predict that the Philippines will totally collapse at the time, no? Pero it did not. And thankfully, for the Chinoys, they stayed put. Yung mga Benedicto, mga Desini, lahat sila nag-pull out, nag-abroad yan. But the Chinoys stayed put and continued, no? Pero ang hindi nakikita, marami ring nag-suffer, no? Ano na yung mga Chinoys na nag-underground newspapers, the first victim pre-martial law was the Yuyitong brothers who were summarily deported, no? Na dineport talaga sa Taiwan for writing subversive articles daw, no? Kaya and then kasi kahirapan ng bayan natin noon, sa kahirapan ng Pilipinas, ang number 1 culprit, scapegoat, mga Chinese, Chinoy. Kaya kung natatanda ni Ricky Lee, the very first script niya, it become famous, no? Because it catered mainly for Chinoy audience, Dragnet.
Yeah.
Bakit namin kinomission si Ricky to write a script na ang bida ay Chinoy? Ang istorya revolved around a Chinoy who was involved. Nag-testify siya against a policeman na talagang drug lord, no? Napatay, mga ganyan. Why did we have to commission Ricky Lee to write that script for movies? Kasi kontrabida, lahat ng movie, lahat ng media, kontrabida ang mga Chinese. Kasi scapegoats ang hirap, walang makain. So sino ngayon, ang gobyerno, Marcos government, deliberately diverted attention away from the real economic problem at i-blame nila mga Chinese businessmen kasi daw mga exploiters. So yan hindi nakikita ng mga elders, mga magulang ninyo. Kaya sinasabi ninyo, they continue supporting Marcos kasi hindi naman nila nakita na behind yung mga businesses nila, maraming nagsakripisyo din, ano, na hindi nila nakita. Tapos yun na nga, yung wala na nga pulis, pero ang nag-extort nun, mga military, no? Kung minsan magpa-plant ng subversive materials sa tindahan mo, pag hindi ka naglagay, huhulihin ka kasi subversibo ka daw. Pero planting, parang yung drugs planting ngayon, no? Dati, subversive materials ang plant nila.
Yeah, ma'am. So it sounds so scary nga yung martial law. These are stories nga that we don't always hear because sometimes our parents were sheltered, we were protected. And during the martial laws time, the Chinoys, no matter what, we stayed in the Philippines, we helped the community, and we thrived. No, the Chinoys community really boosted the economy of the Philippines. We were the foundation and the backbone of it. And since then, I don't know if this is correct to say, but we have also always been there for the Philippine community ever since martial law, and we have grown successful. But a lot of Chinoys also, the older we get, we don't want to change our ways. So a lot of us are very comfortable on the current system na dan hotampo dan kay ketong le. So I think that's why some people might be scared of the upcoming administration, especially with VP Leni, because she's advocating change. So
let me just say something there, no?
Yes, sir.
Having worked in government, there are two things that most of Chinoys are business people. So let me address your concerns from a business point of view. There are two factors that will determine whether one would enter business in the country, whether one would do business. Number one is predictability. Number two is leveling the playing field. These two factors, predictability, since if the rules are very, very predictable, then it's easy for the businessman to predict and plan ahead. And whether you're small or big, what's important is predictability. Number two is level playing field. Walang palakasan. These two factors were absent in the Marcos year. And I'm referring now to the business climate during that time. The reason why Tessie said that there are cronies because the playing field was not leveled. The friends of President Marcos then, the close to him were the cronies. They got the monopolies. Someone got the coconut industry. Someone got the sugar. Someone got power and all that. So there is really the level playing field was not there. And then there is also no predictability because the rules were changed to favor your business cronies. And that's what people don't see right now. And as Filipino businessmen, Chinoy businessmen, one should really be very concerned about that because that's important. You want to expand your business, you have to make sure that the rules of the country are predictable, that the playing field is leveled. That's the reason why we don't have global business players in the country, very few. You've got only Ricky Rason who's done ICTSI extended terminals outside. You've got Andrew Tan who set up wineries outside the Philippines. We're only beginning to see global Filipino players because for the past several years, at the very least, I can speak of the Aquino administration, there was predictability, there was level playing field, walang palakasan in terms of opening up. And that's one thing that you would like the next president to make sure and to continue. The business playing field is leveled and there is predictability in the rules. Absent those two, don't expect the country to grow because rules will keep on changing, and that's not good for businessmen, whether you're Chinoy, Filipino, or Castilla.
Thank you, Sir Ricky. It gives us actually a view into what do we expect with the next what as business people, what we can expect or what we would hope for with the next administration, because it is the continuity. And then syempre our businesses are not only one term businesses like some others. It's as Chinoys, we also look for family businesses down the line and what we can pass on down to our children. Kaya thank you, sir. I Sir, I don't know why. Is there anything to think why VP Leni is the one that will bring this forward, bring about this continuity that you're speaking of? Why we cannot find it in other candidates?
Let me give you an example why I said that the Chinoys had the role in making. Way back in 2016, when Mar was running for president, if you remember that, when he was running to become president, there was an attempt for Mar to get Grace to be his vice president. That thing didn't pan out. So, in one meeting, in a Sunday meeting, I remember there were a number of us in a meeting, and Secretary Butchaba, the DBM budget secretary, informed us that Senator Chis Escudero informed him that Grace is not willing to be the vice of Mar. So at that meeting, I said, let's stop marching to the beat of their drums. It's time for us to get your own vice president. Wag na si Grace. Hindi na ayaw na ni Grace po. So they suggest, so sino gusto nyo? And I said, kunin natin si Leni Robredo. Bakit si Leni? Hindi siya kilala. She's a congressman first term. She just runs in 2013. And then she's a nobody in the sense, political sense. Her claim to fame at the time was she was the widow of Jesse Robredo. And Jesse Robredo was a cabinet colleague of mine, and who unfortunately passed away. So I suggest, and my point was, look, we're after good governance. We've got the thing that Leni was saying right now, transparency, accountability, all these things we were practicing. And so we need to continue that good governance. And by the way, for most of you, our government institutions are very, very weak. The foundations are weak because in a World Bank study, for good institutions to take root, it has to at least be there for 10 years. So we need continuity in them. So imagine if Noy was president, and then Mar was president, and then Leni becomes president. That's why I wanted her to be vice, because I know for a fact that Leni was for good governance, knowing Jesse. And so I really pushed in that particular meeting, kunin natin si Leni as vice president. And Leni didn't know anything about this thing. And then they were asking me, they were good, big politicians then also, bakit hindi si ganito, bakit hindi si ganyan? I all defended that. And I said, there's only one who can pursue good governance. Even as vice presidential candidate, I already saw that Leni can be the one that can continue good governance. And true enough, look at what she's espousing right now. The problem, however, let me just say it, is when good times roll, people take for granted things that we, in the case of Ricky, was arrested for. There's a saying by Thomas Paine, an American during the American Revolution. What he said was this: what we obtain too cheaply, we esteem too lightly. Because Ricky, Tessie, and I, we saw how martial law happened, the repression of certain rights. We valued it. Importante sa amin yun, pinaglalaban. That's why it's clear with us why martial law is not good and why it should not continue. But in your case, the beneficiary of democracy after 1986, you felt it's a God-given right for you. Hindi yan God-given right. At some point in our history, ninakaw yon. Not only our rights, but also the kind of business climate that we should have. Not only that, they took away also the training of political leaders. We were robbed one generation of political leadership because Marcos stayed for more than so many years. So there was so much that happened that deprived this country of so many things. Not only rights, not only... Our institutions are not sturdy right now. That's why after 6 years, with a change of government, it had a different kind, no perspective of governance. now we bring it back to what Leni's been saying is with good governance, transparency, and accountability. And I believe that because as vice president, in my few times that I've interacted with her. Oh, by the way, she refused to, when I spoke to her, when I asked her to meet me in Mario's, that's what the time I broke, Mark gave me the go signal to speak to her, nashock siya, and she was so surprised. And it really went through the whole process of discerning. She didn't want to become vice president. In the same way right now, she also didn't want to be president. I had a chance to speak to her in July. I convinced her, Ma'am, sige, gagawa ako ng kampanya for you to convince you to run. That's why we started Let Leni Lead that time. So, but I knew for a fact that in her heart of hearts, also being the wife of Jesse Robredo, ano sila ang tawag dun sa Tagalog, yung ano sila sa, they're joined in the hip in terms of good governance. Jesse made Naga City so successful as an example of how good governance is. And behind a successful politician, by the way, the best politician in the house is not the politician himself, it's the politician's wife. Because why? Because a politician's wife is after logistics. There's a saying that strategy wins wars, strategy wins battles, logistics wins wars. Because alam niya kung ano asikasuhin. Not only just talking the politicians, anong kailangan nila, anong kailangan ng mga tao. So she knew about logistics. It's very important in any campaign. It's not just strategy but also logistics, and she knew it. And so that's why there was angat buhay nung naging vice president siya. It went to the poorest of the poor. Yun yung kailangan natin ngayon talaga, to be able to reach the massa, to be able to talk to them in their language, and to be able to also at the same time speak to the elite. She has a combination of being able to talk to the business people as well as talking to the marginalized sector. And that's something that we ought to have. And that's something which I strongly believe. That's why I believe that Leni Robredo should be the next president of the country.
I think that would give us a good governance when VP Leni is elected as president, right? I want to ask Sir Ricky Lee if he has any personal anecdotes on VP Leni. Do you know her personally?
Not really. One time, though, umattend ako ng book launch na hindi naman ako involved dun sa libro, pero may mga national artists na nandun. Pero umattend ako. I was introduced by the MC earlier on in the program. Nung aalis na siya, maiksi lang siyang panahon na nandun sa lugar eh. Grenades on your occasion, din alis na siya. Paalis na siya, tinihila na siya ng mga tao. I remember lumingon pa siya sa akin at nagpasalamat eh. Sa ibang tao siguro maliit na bagay yun eh. Pero sa akin, natandaan niya ako, hindi naman kami magkakilala, at lumingon pa siya, and she took the time and the trouble to say, thank you, Ricky. I appreciated that. I think na-realize ko na nakikinig siya at nakatingin siya. Yung ibang mga politicians natin, na government officials, nakukulong na sila sa taas eh, ng trabaho, ng kung ano ng dahilan, etc. etc. Pero siya, parang hindi mo siya maikukulong. And that instance proved to me na hindi siya maikukulong. Makikita ka niya, maririnig ka niya. Yun lang ang ano ko sa kanya. We don't know each other. Well, next anecdote ko siguro is sumali ako ng isang rally sa Pasig. And nag-join ako mula doon sa simula. At nandun ako sa gitna, as in hindi kami makagalaw, gitgitan talaga. I wanted to experience it because I was doing it nung panahon ng martial law during rallies, and I wanted to experience it again sa ground. So nandun ako at halos malapit na ako sa stage. So talagang for hours naglakad ako na git-git na ganun lahat. Senior citizen and all. It made me realize na hindi campaign lang yung nangyayari eh. Parang si Leni is able to mobilize a movement. And that's the reason why I think I want to join. It's a movement. Hindi siya kampanya lang. It's a movement. Tumitingin ako sa palibot. I was there from 2 or 3 in the afternoon until mga 9 ng gabi. And then later, nasa side na lang ako. Nakikita ko, parang she is able to bring out the best in us. Ang daming creative people, ang daming mga nagpa-perform sa side streets, ang daming nagpa-paint, may kumakanta. Hindi sila nasa gitna, hindi sila wala dun sa stage, hindi sila makikita ng mga tao. Kanya-kanya silang sulok at kanya-kanya silang nagpa-perform, nagbibigay. So parang na-bring out niya lahat yung best sa atin as Filipinos, bayanihan spirit, the creative in us, nang walang bayad, nang walang hinihingi, pag-advocate sa gusto na i-advocate nang walang kapalit, maski na anong oras, maski na anong pagod. Parang looking around doon sa rally sa Pasig, nakikita ko yun sa bawat isa sa palibot. Lahat ng edad, may naka-wheelchair pa, may bata, may bakla, may tomboy, and so on. So yun, Leni naman ako nung pa. Pero that evening, na-solidify talaga what for me, what she was doing. And I could imagine for the next years what she could do. Parang totoong leader, nag-mobilize ng mga tao nang hindi dahil sa makinarya, hindi dahil sa pera, hindi dahil sa political plans, hindi dahil sa blind or false loyalty, kundi dahil na-mobilize niya yung totoong nasa loob ng mga tao na paniniwala nila, na hopes nila, at ng capabilities nila. Na-mobilize niya. So I think that's a true leader.
Yeah, I remember that, Sir Ricky. I was also there in Pasig. The generosity of people talagang, lahat talaga, binibigay lang lahat. Tubig, pagkain, snacks,
Chocolate,
stickers.
pizza. Yeah, maski saan ka pumunta.
Pandesal.
Yeah, alok sila ng alok. Alok sila ng alok, bigay ng bigay. I remember it was also the case nung People Power, pag nagra-rally kami. Maski saan kaming sulok pumunta, laging merong isang ordinaryong tao na magbibigay siya ng tubig o ng pagkain or at least ng encouragement or parang suddenly I felt a community of kapwa Pilipino which I never felt in a long time. In a long time I felt na isolated, kanya-kanya. Ito I felt na I belong to a community. At lahat kami Pilipino, maski anong edad, anong gender, anong etc. kulay and so on. She was able to bring that.
Meron talagang pagkakaisa.
That partnership really came out from everyone in all walks of life. I know Teacher Baldwin here has also shared with partnerships, right, with VP Leni and those who had a hard time, especially in start of pandemic, with Bahay Chinoy, with your personal advocacy.
I haven't met Leni personally, but I'm a goodwill ambassador of Philippine League Against Epilepsy. I was an outstanding person living with epilepsy. I had this Chuchuna Awards. So since 2015 or 2013, I had this brilliant I heard so much brilliant story about Leni and Jessie, yung mga brilliant NGO works nila. Yung mga yung sumasakay sila talaga ng bangka, katulad namin umaakyat kami ng mga bundok to reach yung mga schools at all, and then I'm sure she has also this heart also with the people with mental health, and then during the pandemic naman, I was a volunteer at Kaisa and also for Towns Foundation, and then may mga times kasi when we are delivering the PPEs na may mga doctors na lumalapit sa amin tapos hindi namin particular syempre ma-deliver sa isang lugar. So i-link lang nila namin sa OBP. Pero walang palakasan. Parang what's amazed me, it's like parang dadaan ka lang doon sa kanyang proseso. Yun, nakakarating na siya. Yet Towns Foundation also are really brilliant women inside, diba? It's organizations of great Filipinas, including Lola Tessie, so she's one of the awardees, diba? Parang ganyan. So yet walang palakasan, and then also the Marawi, I think Marawi, Ma'am Tessie has partnered also with Ma'am Tessie, di ba may partnership kayo dito sa Marawi Housing?
Yeah, we launched the Piso para kay Leni campaign. As in literally piso. May nagbibigay ng 10 piso. Yung coin bank ko, printed, yung piso para sa laban ni Leni. Nagsa restaurant ako, nandun sa unahan ko yung coin bank. Yung waiter, pagkakuha ng tip doon sa kabilang table, nilagay doon sa coin bank, no? 20 pesos yung tip niya. Napilitan tuloy kami, laki ng tip na iniwan namin kasi tuwan-tuwa kami. And we raised 7.5 million. Dapat kasi yon para sa filing fee against doon sa protest, sa election protest. Wala talaga siyang pera. 7.5 million ang filing fee. We raised that, pero hindi tinanggap ng electoral tribunal. Hindi daw pwedeng galing sa donation. Kailangan doon sa mismong lumalaban, doon sa election protest, no? So we used the 7.5 million to build the houses in Marawi. The very, very first row of houses turned over after the Marawi siege ay Angat Buhay. Ang pera galing sa amin, no? The Outstanding Women in the Nation Service. So kasama ako nila VP Leni doon sa Marawi, no? Sa turnover nung mga ng mga bahay, no? Maraming encounters with VP Leni. Anytime, kahit gaano siya ka-busy, pag kailangan namin siyang i-meet, she meets with us, no? Very down to earth. Yan din yung nakita ko noon kay Jessie Robredo. Talaga maiyak ka kahit 7:00 ng umaga, sarado pa yung restaurant sa malapit sa DOJ. Sabi namin, may wala kami ibang time itong 7 o'clock lang. He met with us, no? Sarado pa noon ang hison. So doon kami sa bangketa sa DOJ nagmi-meeting. And that's how down to earth he is, no? Kaya makita mo si Leni, makita mo talaga the whole family, no? Yung dedication nila. Thank you.
I think si Selena may question, no?
Yeah, actually, I have a question for Sir Edwin. Nakwento mo kanina about how great VP Leni, naglaban mo talaga siya para maging VP. There is an old Chinese Chongyi, Chongnan Qingyi. What are your thoughts that some people think that women, or VP Leni for that matter, cannot lead?
Okay, let me just share to you several reasons why in surveys, no? Several surveys have shown, because when you poll someone, you just don't poll the horse race, you poll also the qualitative reasons why someone's voting for a candidate, someone's not voting for a candidate. So I looked into the reasons why people don't want to vote for Leni, and there are three main, the biggest attributes. Sunod-sunuran siya.
Yes.
She has a weak character, and pangatlo, babae siya. Doon sa, just to doon sa babae siya is not as strong anymore. I've never believed that, no? And it was proven also. I've never believed that porque babae siya, hindi siya pwedeng mag-presidente. In the first place, you already have two presidents, female presidents, si Cory and si GMA. And hindi sila, ayaw ng tao, if there's a reason why they don't like it, it's not because of, if there's a reason why people like women, it's not because per se na babae sila, which is important, by the way, but because they've exhibited strength. If you remember, at least Ricky and Tessie would know this, in 86, before yung 83 elections, lumaban talaga si Cory. She was described as the Joan of Arc of the Philippines at that point. Si GMA naman, her tagline was Strong Republic. So apparently Filipino voters want strength, gusto na matapang. And political commentaries would always say that except for Noynoy Aquino, lahat yan talagang yung pag-impression kaagad sa kanila is strong man sila. The fact is, Leni, number one, ito lang simpleng analogy lang, simpleng comparison lang. Sino ba sa mga kandidato nakakahatak ng 187,000 na pumupunta sa rally nila? Nag-umpisa yan sa Iloilo na 40,000. Umakyat sa Pampanga ng 200. What kind of a person can evoke so much passion such that I will go to a rally? Like Ricky as a senior citizen will go to a rally. That they will just give, and like in every rally, it's a situation like a multiplication of bread, loaves of bread. People would just share. It's really like tama si Ricky, it's like 86 nung people power sa EDSA. People were just giving, there's so much passion. If you a leader who has a weak character will not be able to induce such passion. Alam mo kung passion ang measure of winning, panalo na tayo. Sobrang passionate na, and you cannot have someone na ang isang pinuno hindi ka makahatak ng ganyang karami kung walang passion. Kung hindi ka nakaka-inspire ng passion, she's very inspiring. She may be a woman, but but she has strength of character. And by the way, another trivia that I'd like to tell you, ako ang nag-commission ng kay Leni tayo because at that point, I'll tell you this. In July, I spoke to Leni nga. Sabi ko sa kanya, ma'am, because sabi ko, hindi na kita i-convince ang ginawa ko noong 2016 kasi nahihirapan ang mga anak mo. In fact, every time I was introduced by Leni to other people, she would always call me, ito ang salarin. Ako ang may kasalanan dahil siya naging vice president. So in July, I spoke to her. Sabi ko, ma'am, sige, I want you to run, but of course, you need convincing. So I'll try to launch a campaign. At that point, I told her straight, this is what I told her. Ma'am, ang kailangan natin there's a crisis in government. There's a crisis in the country. There is a vacuum of leadership. What we need right now in this time of crisis is a leader. So that's why sabi ko, I will launch a campaign. And so we started Let Leni Lead, we put out stickers and all that. And then I came up with the people who approached me and said, sir, I have a production company. Let me know how I can help you. So I immediately asked him, can you do a jingle? O sige ma'am, o sige sir. So I met with them. And I told them, our optics was this, our projection is, by the way, sorry, I told Leni, ma'am, we need a leader. We don't need a social worker, we need a leader. Kasi ang tingin sa kanya, parang matulungin nga and all that. But the point was, for the past 5 years, her numbers were not going up. In the survey, it was also stuck at 6, it was stuck at 7%. Sabi ko, ma'am, we need to change. People need to view us as a leader. Hindi pwedeng nanay ka. So, no offense to the women, but that was the projection that we're making. Sabi ko, feeling ko, hindi problema ang babae maging presidente. Tanggap na ng Pilipino yan. Dalawa na ang pangulo natin na babae. Ang kailangan makita ng tao na maliban sa mabait kayo, dapat makitang matapang kayo at pinuno. And that's the reason why when I commissioned the song, I met with the composer, si Nika, and I said, ang kailangan natin, ang gusto kong ilabas nyo sa kanta, pinuno. That's why, yung refrain, ito ng ating pinuno. All the thing, we talked to her, we said, pag sa bagyo, siyang nauuna dyan. Di ba? So, and that's why we need someone, we need to project her as a leader. Totoo yan but people don't see her as a leader. And guess what? We launched it in August. Ang pangako pala sa kanya ganito, ma'am, 7 or 8% kayo sa Pulse Asia, by September, pag naging 13% kayo, you're a viable candidate. In September, there's an embargo. We had surveys, so Pulse Asia would come up with a long list of candidates, and her number then was 8. But that's not important. What's important is what we call an embargoed question where you poll her according to sino lang talaga yung tatakbo. At that point, alam na natin sino tatakbo. Si Bongbong, si Ping, si Isko, si Manny Pacquiao. So, sinama si Leni. In September, when we did the survey, guess what? Nag-13% siya. So, she became a viable, apart from our efforts, may mga nag-effort na talaga. And it really just created that passion. So, and during the FGDs or focus group discussions, I don't know if you're familiar with focus group discussions, you gather a number of people and then you ask them questions and try to probe ano ba yung gusto nila, ano ayaw nila and all that. We played kay Leni tayo. That was early on, August. And that was not masyado pang kilala. In those times, nako-convert ang tao kasi ang sabi nila, pinuno pala si Leni. Nakikita pala lahat ng ginagawa. That whole video na lahat ng accomplishments. Kailan makita ng tao na pinuno siya at marami siyang nagawa. Ang problema sa kanya, in all FGDs, wala naman siyang nagawa People also didn't know anong nagawa niya.
And ito din, sir, no? Yeah, this is the first time I'm campaigning on the ground talaga, no? So it's a different na experience for me, but as an NGO volunteer for many years, kakaiba siya, no? People just come out. Di ba napagbintangan po ako na na kami yung grupo namin, napagbintangan kami na bayaran, no, nabayaran. But would you know that sa third Binondo Heritage Walk, no, we were expecting 40 and then 65 came, and then some just came from Parola, and then some came from after the walk, disperse. They don't even they don't even parang expect anything. They just came to campaign for Leni. And isa sa mga na-experience namin, it's like yung weakness daw ng babae. Why? Pagka hindi ba tayo may sakit tayo, nanay. Pagka during the pandemic, ako'y ang sino ang behind Baldwin on the ground? Towns Foundation. And Towns Foundation, lahat babae. Lahat babae sila lo. These are great Filipinas. Of course, including my mentor, Teresita Angsi, no? So, lahat babae. So, how can you say, sabihin na lang natin, no, sa mga undecided pa dito, no, na how can you say that Cory is weak, Leni is weak, that the Philippines cannot be led by a woman? During the pandemic, we have little budget, then we combine force, and then yun. Thank you.
Hindi talaga, maano talaga, yan ang ginagamit. You remember, even in Marcos time, I think Ricky would know this, sinabi ang tawag kay Cory, ano yung tawag sa kanya, di ba? Yung babae lang parang gano'n, housewife lang siya. In the same way that Leni was recently described by the sister of one candidate as a housewife lang siya. People take for granted the fact that women are very good leaders. Tessie, by the way, Tessie, just a little trivia. When the Luneta hostage-taking incident happened, where several Hong Kong tourists were killed, it was Tessie that we approached. I spoke to Tessie because I asked for her help to meet with the Chinese community and with the Chinese ambassador and all that. So she helped us she was very, very instrumental. Leaders can come from whatever gender. Di ba? And we've seen that already. Kaya dalawa lang sagot siya. Meron tayong dalawang babaeng presidente at sino sa inyong mga kandidato nakakapaghatag ng ganyang karami at ganyang kalakas ang passion? Sagutin niyo ako because you inspire. If she inspires so many people, and by the way, ito yung kampanyang walang pera yung kampanya. Lahat nag-aabono. Saan ka makakuha ng isang kampanya, yung mga tao, mismo ultimo yung mga mga wala ng pera, nagbibigay pa ng pera.
24 hours gising.
Kung hindi
24
pera,
hours gising.
Blood, sweat, and
cash or in
tears.
kind, di ba? Yung sinasabi nila
24 hours gising for Leni. Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
also no yung the world can attest din how powerful women are, 'di ba? Like in the pandemic response sa buong mundo, yung mga country na may women leaders ang nag-excel sa pandemic response, like New Zealand, like Germany, like Taiwan.
Yeah.
Diba?
But leadership should go beyond gender, color of the skin, no? Ethnicity, 'di ba? It should always go by yun ano bang tawag doon? Yung qualification, kung qualified ka doon, no? Parang yun, no? It should always go beyond that. Ako, no? I'm a person with epilepsy, no? But I'm not the perfect person to go to although I have good seizure control, no? I have good seizure control. I've responded disaster after disasters, hindi ba? With my Kaisa. But Kaisa has always been inclusive.
Yeah.
I would forever be grateful to Kaisa para sa kaunlaran, no? But we're not endorsing Leni. We remain non-partisan, no, as an organization, no. But you see, Kaisa, ang point ko doon, Kaisa hindi nila tiningnan ang aking pagiging epileptic or asthmatic. Muntik pa ako mamatay last year. No, pero namatay ako hindi na dahil doon sa pandemic response. Nandito na ako sa bahay, nagle-lecture, araw-araw nagwo-work. nag-community pantry. But hindi nila tiningnan yung aking kahinaan. Tiningnan nila yung aking leadership skills. Tiningnan nila kung yung aking kakayahan, ang aking puso. So ganyan ko din pinili. Kaya ako pinili si Leni para
May,
sa
may,
kabataan.
may sasabihin lang ako, yung tulad ng nangyari, naranasan ni Ricky sa kay Leni doon sa awards na at saka doon sa Pasig. For those of you who'd like to really still trying to convince people to for Leni, invite them to the rallies. Kasi one of the things that we do is what we call retail campaigning. You campaign on the ground. Yan tawag ng retail, yung tao-tao, ganyan. Malaki ang impact ni Leni pag nakikita siya ng personal at naririnig siya magsalita. Napakalaking bagay. And that's why yung umpisa niyan, talagang maliit lang yung pag dumadami ang tao, because this is one thing that also Butch Abad told me, talagang malakas siya sa retail campaign. This is a campaign na, look April na. Ang survey natin, tingnan mo yung survey, parang ang layo-layo ni Leni. But what's the odd thing in this particular election? You still see politicians who are experts,
Yes.
who are by this time around, tumataya na yan kung sino ang panalo, and yet you still see a lot of politicians still going for Leni. Is there something what's happening in the ground? The question actually right now is what's happening in the ground? It's not something, kasi by this time, for instance in 2010, si Noy at this time, alam namin mananalo na. So naglilipatan na
still
lahat.
no-
Dito kay Leni, hindi, you don't see that. You, for instance, lamang na si BBM, si Bongbong, and yet, ang daming politiko pa rin lumalapit sa kanya. For instance, Northern Samar, Tessie, we have a Chinese governor there, si anak ni Emil Ong, si Edwin. He just campaigned, he just endorsed Leni. Diba? So, ang dami pa ng mga politiko at this time, who normally, conventionally would have said, I'll go for the winning candidate. And yet, it's still a lot of candidates moving towards Leni. So that's something there's something happening in the ground. If there's something odd about this election, there's so many odd things that are happening in this particular election, which we've never seen in previous elections.
Pero sir, some people are still concerned. Yes, she's coming out as a strong leader. Pero a lot are still overshadowing that, saying she's a puppet, diba, of the Dilawans, of oligarchs, of all these other businessmen. And it will be her admin will be more of the same. I don't know what we can tell them to show that she's not
I agree.
a puppet.
Puppet of whom? Sa atin lang, Liberal Party is no longer a powerful force. She's a chairman and yet she ran as independent. Why did she want to do that? Kung sunod-sunuran siya, sasabihin na kanyang mga kapwa LP, huwag kang lilipat ng LP. LP ka, ba't ka magiging independent? She made her own decision. And all the decisions she's taken on as vice president were her own decisions. Of course, you cannot do away with asking for advice, no? Kasama yan sa, you ask experts, political veterans who would know a situation, and you would ask counsel, but all the decisions are hers.
Sir, maybe, sorry, maybe you can also give us some insight with her, if she had a hand in choosing Senator Kiko as our VP, as her VP.
I'll tell you something. Remember the time where she decided to work for ICAD? Remember that bag na sinabi sa kanya ni Presidente Duterte, why don't you work for us? Did you know that most of her advisors were telling her, ma'am, wag niyo tanggapin yan, trap yan. Kung sunod-sunuran siya, hindi na niya tinanggap yan. Kasi conventionally, oo nga, kasi kaaway, parang ang tingin sa'yo, political foe ka ni President Duterte. It was a position that you were meant to fail. And yet, what did she do? Against all advice, against all the advice given by her maybe her staff or colleagues, she said, no, I will accept that. And what happened? In a span of 1 week, she got fired. Why? Because she was so effective. Now she was being viewed now as a threat to the administration. So there are many things that you can see there that she has her own mind. Diba? There are conventional things that she should have done which she did not do because she felt. For instance, ito na to. Nag-decide siya na sobrang late. I told her, ma'am, mag-decide kayo ng September. Because mas maganda September, October din. But she even then, late na yan. At September, super late na yan because you need planning, you need organization, you need everything. And yet she decided, because she was really studying and discerning, she decided late. And yet look at the response. Everybody was thinking, wala na yan. Late na yan nag-decide. Mga political, lumipat na mga politiko. Oh, what happened? The people came over. Instead of politicians, the people flocked to her. So these are we take these things for granted because in a way, maybe perhaps if you were more attuned politically, you will see all these small nuances show that she's a leader talaga. And I've seen her because I've known her. I've met with her. I have the privilege of knowing that. Sabi ko nga sa kanya, ma'am, leader kayo, pakita nyo, pinuno kayo. You are a leader. I have no doubts that you are a leader. That's why we need to project you as a leader. And that's why, maano talaga. And wala akong duda ron eh. Yung babae niya, you know what that being a woman shows as a leader, apart from being a leader? Empathy. She has so much empathy, which is important to people. That's why ang tao, pag nakikita siya, nararamdaman, nagkakaroon ng connect kay VP Leni. And I'm sure all of you experience that. All of us experience that. And that's where empathy and strong leadership is a lethal combination to be the next president of the Philippines.
Yes, sir. As for that, super ganda nga nung what you are saying, her characteristics, her attitudes really suits to become a president. For both Sir Ricky and Sir Edwin, how do you guys think yung pinaka-ultimate na gagawin to help her win? Both her and Sen Kiko. Kasi, ayun nga, currently, di ba, Duterte regime tayo ngayon. And then tumatakbo ulit for vice president, yung daughter naman ni President Duterte. Hindi ba ulit na lang na anak, father, anak, father, anak, father, anak. I think, of course, as the vice presidential candidate of VP Leni, we also have to push for Sen Kiko. Paano kaya silang dalawa, vote sila na swak naman mananalo?
Ricky, you wanna start?
I think mas alam ang sagot dyan. And I was listening to you kanina, nakikinig ako mabuti kasi marami akong natutunan at na-absorb eh. So,
ang challenge, and I'll tell you this as a matter of fact, we've never, and this is why this is a challenge with Leni and Kiko, we have never elected a president and a vice president on the same tandem. We've never done that. Si Noy had Binay, si Digong had Leni, si GMA pala with Noli de Castro. But that's very rare, no? So the challenge for us right now is really to just show them together as a tandem eh. Wala akong duda si Kiko is going to fulfill his role. Malaki ang it's different because may kanya-kanyang kalaban sila. Admittedly, si Sara has a strong, malakas rin ang pool niya because kumbaga she's the only administration candidate. Bongbong is not being carried by Duterte, but Sara is being carried by Duterte. So, to a large degree, mas hirap itong si Kiko. Because look at Mindanao. What is being carried in Mindanao? It's not Leni Kiko, it's Rosa, Robredo, and Sara because Mindanao. So, our challenge is the same challenge, is the same push that we're giving now to Leni. You know, the one thing that is also bago dito sa kampanyang to is the house-to-house campaign. Ang house-to-house pang-local yan eh. Pag sa syudad or sa town, yung house-to-house standard yan. Pero ngayon kailan nakakita na nagna-national house-to-house ang mga tao. Ang kinakampanya, naka-pink. Last Easter Sunday, I was going to buy Chachago somewhere here. So, nakita ko mga Leni volunteer. Naka-pink. Easter Sunday, my goodness, pahinga naman kayo, mga Inday. Pero Easter Sunday, they were going out. It's the fervor, the passion that we have. So, it really, we have 18 days because the last day of the campaign is May 7. We have 18 days right now to go house to house, and all these rallies and all the social media that we have to double down on all our efforts because time is ang kalaban natin is time actually more than anything else kasi kung may enough time tayo, I'm very confident, but our challenge now is how do we win in a span of 18 days. And the only tools that we have right now is the air war meaning social media, and the TV that is going to be produced by the campaign, central campaign. That central campaign ang TV ads, radio ads. Ang digital naman, tayo yan. And then your ground war. The ground war by now dapat solid na yan, but they're not solid. People are still shifting. Politicians are still going for Leni. So the house to house can encourage us to go to all our towns and cities and municipalities. Pag nakikita ng mga politiko maraming mga nakapink, that can also sway, and people see that And isang pakiusap ko lang, when we're doing house to house, let's talk about the positive messaging of Leni instead of bakit hindi itong kandidato to. Hayaan mo na sila yung last Sunday nag-implode yung mga ibang kandidato niya. Hayaan mo na silang pumalpak. Pero tayo, ang daming pwedeng ibigay na positive messaging kasi if you're going to talk about the negatives of other candidates, you're pulling teeth. Let's say, for instance, I'll give you an example. If you're going to talk to a BBM soft voter, mag-aaway pa kayo like you're saying, Marshall and all that, but talk about the positive messaging of Leni. This is what you're gonna do. Instead of framing it in the negative. Sa akin because, why? Because mas hindi mo kinakalaban yung kandidato, hindi mo inaaway yung kausap mo. And ito yung although pag nagtanong sila, we're obliged to tell the truth, express the truth. But yung radical love talaga, more than the substance itself, it's the way you conduct yourself. And di ba there's a saying, mga Protestants, this is a Protestant hymn, and they know we are Christians by our love. Di ba? So they'll know we are Leni supporters by the way we share Leni to them. It's that passion, it's a compassion, it's empathy, knowing that Leni will be there to lead our government honestly, transparently, and will iaangat ang ating buhay as her tagline says.
Yeah.
Kampanya din ninyo yung mga senador ni VP Leni. Kasi
Of course.
Si Sen Kiko.
nakakahiya talaga yung mga nangunguna sa senatorial slate ngayon, di ba? At least kasi nasa baba pa si Risa Hontiveros.
Sen Risa.
So
Yeah.
anyway,
Sen Risa.
help also campaign.
Lila.
May chance pa naman kahit na nasa ibaba, may mga chance pa rin naman so both of them, and don't say na konti na lang ara, basta keep your hopes up, na hindi lang hopes ako I always say na I'm very confident of a win. I'm confident. I could feel it. I said I could feel it. I'm confident of a win, and you also show that confidence kasi parang yung collective will yan Parang ng people power, di ba? Mafe-feel mo talaga, even EDSA 1, EDSA 2, mafe-feel mo talaga yung energy ng tao kasi yung desire mo, parang it really goes up to yung supplication mo to the heavens, no? So, yan. Kausin-sim na
I think the one question that I think this would be the last question. Sir Ricky, being a Chinese, should we stop being apolitical? Like we should not engage in politics anymore. Pabayaan na natin yung mga tao na gusto makialam sa politika. Mga Chinoy, dito na lang tayo. We just concentrate on our community or on our wag na tayong makialam sa politika.
Actually, nabanggit ni Tessie yung first film na nasulat ko sa buong buhay ko. That was Dragnet. That was in 1973. Ang gustong sabihin niya, we cannot be apolitical. even for the Chinese at that time. Kasi dito ka nakatira sa Pilipinas, may Chinese blood ka, pero bansa mo na to eh. Dito ka nakatira, mga anak mo at mga apo mo dito na. Ano man ang mangyari sa Pilipinas, apektado ka. And I think if you live in a community, hindi ka pwedeng mabuhay lang para sa sarili mo eh. I don't think you can be happy if other people are not happy. I don't think you can be free from suffering if other people are suffering. I think kabit-kabit tayo lahat eh. Communal yun eh. So whether Chinoy ka or whatever else, ang kulay ng dugo mo or ano, nasa Pilipinas tayo nabubuhay, bansa natin ito, ipaglaban natin ang buhay natin dito at ang kinabukasan natin dito. And I think na-prove yun, nabanggit ulit kanina ni Edwin at ni Nano, I think na-prove yun nung nag-escalate ng mga rallies, mga movements ngayon na it's a very inclusive thing. Hindi ka Chinoy lang, hindi ka whatever else, this way or what, o Filipino or kung ano man region and so on. I think hindi ka nga maski BBM or what eh. It's very inclusive eh. Hindi siya isang kulay lang I think eh. It's for every Filipino. And I think that includes us.
Sa mga parents ninyo, pwede niyo sabihin, hindi naman natin ini-elect ang Pangulo ng Chinoy community. Pangulo ng Pilipinas ang ini-elect natin. At hindi kailanman magiging mabuti para sa Chinoy ang hindi magiging mabuti para sa mga Pinoy. No? Dahil isa lang ang ating bayan. At hindi rin magiging mabuti sa Pilipinas ang hindi magiging mabuti sa Chinoy kasi bahagi tayo ng lipunan, di ba? Kaya noong panahon ng 90s, pinaglaban natin yung anti-kidnapping kasi hindi mabuti sa Chinoy, so hindi rin magiging mabuti sa Pilipinas and vice versa. So yun ang ipaglaban natin. We are comfortable in our identity as Filipinos, no? Pinoy tayo sa isip, sa diwa at sa gawa. Pero kinikilala natin ang kultura natin, ang lahi natin, ang pinanggalingan natin at ninuno natin ay mga Chinoy, no? Mga Chinese. No? So, pero pinagmamalaki natin, taas noo tayo na Pilipino tayo.
Yeah, Chinoy or Pinoy. Chinoy or Pinoy, no? So, may I share, no? I made this public how I converted my nanay. I have two nanay pala. I have my biological mommy who is now 76 years old. My other nanay, of course, si Tessie, no? I have very maswerte na strong women guiding me, no? Then, how I converted my nanay, when I first asked her, syempre BBM siya, no? BBM, pero no reason at all kasi yatsut niya daw, malakas daw, sabi ng mga kamatsyongan niya. So hidit naman ko, this is not negative campaigning or sinisiraan ko yung kabilang ano. So a sister of a candidate ng kabila naging guest sa President Restaurant, no? Ang organizer ng event na yan, kasi si
notorious.
dating convicted na scammer and kidnapper, no? Parang ganyan. So higipay dito sa kaya gunabot sa kitsala kasi okay na siya. Kung kitsa gibeji ko dahoy queen ko, pinapili ko siya. Sabi ko, mami, apo kain tayo sa president kasi puno sa ingbitin, no? Parang ganyan. So minarites ko siya. Sabi ko, mami, ating ditpay dit ko design habo nataranta kami. Kasi sige kapatid ni other party ko kiya ko sa ganyan. Tapos yung makulit ko na shobe, she is also a PWD. Mami lang kitsa president lang. Oh, ayaw na ni mami. Tapos we end up at the very simple na vegetarian meal. Tapos di siya ho gwalo, kung ako to vote siya nga converted na siya. Converted na siya. So hindi ko siya pinilit.
Miracles
Hindi siya
happen.
pinilit. Yeah.
Miracles happen eh. Yung dinner na yon, yung fundraising dinner na yon sa president, it had a lot of adverse effects, no? Kasi birds of the same feather eh. Tell me who your friends are.
Opo, kasi bakit ka tatanggap ng pera?
Kita mo si Edwin, na-convince niya nanay niya to go for Leni.
Yeah,
right?
nagulat
Dahil
ako kay
sa
mami.
fundraising dinner na yon, ano? Kasi tell me who your friends are. Yeah.
Hindi ko kailangan siyang i-convince si mama ko. Kasi we're loving. I mean, I really love my mom. I really love my mom, no? I really love my mom kasi hindi walang pilitan. Walang pilitan, no? Even sino iboboto niya. So we have this very pleasant na ano yun. So definitely ayaw ni mami na magnanakaw. So tinuturo niya sa anak niya na 50-year-old na, oo, wag kang magnanakaw. Oo, kasi di ba? Okay. I encourage all of us. I think we encourage all the youth to come out, no, to make a stand, no, regardless na bumoto, no. Don't forget also kung sino yung pipiliin ninyo, piliin niyo yon isang kandidato na qualified, no? Tama ba yon, no? Na qualified siya to lead the country, no?
Okay.
It's very nice today, no, to have this napakaiksi ng preparasyon, no, nito. Alright.
So I think a lesson for us is to break the pattern of our ancestor. No, go out, vote, and voice out your whatever what's inside you. All right. So any last words, Sir Ricky, for our voters or for our for those people who hasn't made up their mind on who to support for this coming election? Sir Ricky, you're mute.
Na-unmute. Yeah, I think it's important for us to make up our minds, get involved ngayon para sa kinabukasan, para sa bukas. I don't think we can afford to wait. We should do it now. And I think lahat tayo dapat ma-involved kasi buhay natin ito. Bayan natin ito.
Well said. Sir Edwin?
Ako naman, let me just again go back to the concerns of the Chinoy community. Since most of you are business people, so I think if you want a government that will make sure that the rules will not change midstream, and that therefore there's predictability, and you want a level playing field, you can be assured that hindi kayo walang kinikilingan si Leni, wala siyang crony, wala siyang malakas sa kanya that will take advantage, no. It's her promise that you can take to the bank na everyone will be treated equally. And when it comes to social services, everyone will be, the poorest of the poor will be there. What we did in 2010, we don't believe in trickle-down economics, na kung you let the benefits go down to the classes. Hindi. It will be a direct intervention by the government to make sure that the poorest of the poor the marginalized are taken care of. In so far as the middle class is concerned, you can be assured also that being a member of the middle class, she will be very, very sensitive to our needs. As to concerns of the elite, because everything will be leveled, and there'll be predictability in the rules, you can be assured your business will grow. That was by the way, one of the things that sorry lang ha, in Noise time we were able to improve our credit ratings, which made, by the way, the direct effect of a credit ratings upgrade is the money that the loan from the bank naging mura, the interest rates went down. When you're buying a loan to buy a house or to buy a car, the interest rates went down. That's a benefit of a credit ratings upgrade. You can be sure that the same scenario will happen to us also. Our rates will go down because of good governance. Already the ratings agencies are really looking and have already basically said in purely economic terms that a Leni presidency, a Robredo presidency will augur well for the country in terms of economically and in terms of services to the people. And if you're concerned about your personal well-being, your material well-being of your family and your friends, then I think there's no reason for us to doubt who should be the next president. At least walang duda na corrupt ba to? There's no doubt na hindi siya corrupt. There's no doubt na capable siya. There's no doubt na she can reach out to any sector of society. And that's the reason why we need someone who can be all things to all men. And that someone is a woman.
Very well.
May I know, wala sa scripto, no? Overtime na tayo. Pero I would like to throw it out because when I was promoting itong project na to, sinabi nilang Edwin Lacierda. So I received several feedback, no? So pero wala sa scripto. Sir Edwin, ano masasabi mo kung ikaw ay dilawan at kami ay pinklawan daw, no? So that na ang pinklawan ay dilawan. So it's a common question pero I received that kind of feedback. Parang na negative ka maaring dito para sa kampanya at na-invite ka namin dito. Very harsh na question, no? Ano masasabi mo doon para doon sa na ikaw ay dilawan, pinklawan? Paano natin iano yon? Na dapat hindi idikit kay Cory yung memory ni kay Robredo, no?
You're falling into can I just say that you're falling exactly into the echo chamber? That's a narrative of the other side. Look at it, and history will be kind to President Aquino because economically we went up, and the ideals of Leni are also ideals of the Aquino administration. It's not far behind. That's why I can talk to Leni. We can speak the same language. We're talking about transparency and accountability, good governance. There's no difference between whether you're yellow or you're pink. It's the fact that the Duterte trolls were able to demonize in the same way that they demonized Leni. It's the same demonization that happened to the Dilawans, but the Dilawans did. I mean, President Aquino did the best that he could, and no administration. I don't have to defend that we are not perfect. Even in Leni, should she become president, she will not be perfect. But at the very least, there is the effort to alleviate the poor and improve the mass. One of the things that Noy said is that will they be better when after we leave them than before we came into government? And basically there is an improvement in terms of the well-being, but there are certain things that needed to be done, and that's the reason why for us Chinoys, take note of this. 6 years is never enough for one good president. You have to have two, you have to have three good presidents. To that extent, if you believe, for instance, if Leni becomes president, if she recommends someone who she believes will continue good governance, go for that. Because wala naman silang ibang agenda kundi pagandahin ang pabutihin ang Pilipinas eh. Yun din naman talaga ang pakay ni Pinoy, except nag-iba yung view ng ating kababayan. So that's the challenge there. Deep beneath the colors, we're the same. We believe in the same ideals of good government. And knowing as a former government official, I know how Leni is, what Leni is going through right now. You know, one last bit. The problems in government are like it's like an iceberg. Only 10% is shown to the people. 90% is not shown. It's submerged, but we solve it. And that's the kind of government that Leni will be solving. Those things that you don't see, she'll be able to solve. And I strongly urge those of you who are still in doubt, analyze all the candidates. I am very, very confident that she is the most qualified, the most incorruptible candidate that we've had in this round of elections.
Thank you, Sir Edwin. Thank you, Sir Ricky, Sir Baldwin, Ma'am Tessie for joining us tonight. All everything that you have spoken about, everything that you have shared with us, really help us, tumindig talaga para lang umabot tayo sa eleksyon, para manalo tayo to, because it's really for a better Philippines, to remind us also that to look beyond colors. Sabi nga ni VP Leni, she did run as an independent to unite everyone, beyond party lines, beyond classes, beyond everything, because we are here for the Philippines as a Filipino. So, sirs, ma'am, we thank you very much for giving us the time. For everyone in the audience and who have joined us, I know we are over time. I thank you for your patience.